What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Youth Got Next podcast, and we're excited to be here today because we are on stop 19 of the Flyover plan in the Wayfinding Bible. My name is Isaac Sladen, and I am here with
Miles Richardson.
And we are glad to be back again. We are in another crazy story today.
Yes.
Last time we were talking about David and Goliath. We're skipping ahead a little bit, and we are in 1 Kings chapter 3, and it's the story of Solomon.
Yes.
And how he gets wisdom and how he asks for wisdom. And what we see, kind of just give a little background at the beginning.
Yeah.
God comes to Solomon in a dream.
Yep.
He comes to him and he pretty much is like, hey, I want you to be the next king. Like, I want you to rule this people. Like, I'm choosing you to do this. And I'm trying to find the question. What verse is the question? There it is. Verse 5.
Yeah.
It says, that night the Lord appeared to Solomon in a dream and said, what do you want? Ask and I will give it to you.
Yep.
What would you want to say in that moment?
I don't know. I to be honest, I would start thinking like, man, it would be nice to not have a mortgage. It would be, Emma's car's looking a little rough.
Take some cash.
I'd like to go on. Let's go back to Disney.
Yeah.
These kinds of things are just what initially pop in my mind. I'd like to think that I would slow down a second and ask for wisdom, but in reality, I don't know.
I don't know if I'd ask for that first.
I pray that I would have the wisdom to ask for more wisdom.
Yes.
But that's not most people's first thought when it's like, you get anything you want. What would you like?
Wisdom.
Yeah.
Probably not going to be high on the list if I'm just thinking like in that split second what I want. I would probably go same route. Maybe some cheddar. I'd love to go to a couple sporting events if I could.
Ooh.
Courtside.
Season pass to the new St. Louis City
Shout
soccer
out to
club.
St. Louis City. What's their
looking
mascot?
Forward to that. I don't think they have one.
Oh.
the Arch.
Archers. I don't know. Shout out to St. Louis City. That's what Miles would ask for. But what we see Solomon's answer in verse 6.
Yeah.
And it says it's actually a little bit down, but at first he said, Solomon replied, you showed great and faithful love to your servant, my father David, because he was honest and true and faithful to you.
Yeah.
So right there we see that Solomon is David's son.
Right. And that's important to note too, because we left off David and Goliath, and child David kills Goliath. David goes on to be the king of Israel.
Yeah.
And so now we see that David, who was king of Israel, has had a son.
Yep.
And that is Solomon, who we're looking at. And so in this dream, he kind of remembers back to, man, God, you've been so good to my father.
Yeah.
And now you're extending this blessing to me.
Yeah.
And so that's where you see in verse 7, he says, or verse 9, excuse me, he says, give me an understanding heart so that I can govern your people well and know the difference between right and wrong. For who by himself is able to govern this great people of yours? So God's like, hey, I'm going to give you whatever you want. Just ask for it. And Solomon stops. I would assume it probably takes him a second. It doesn't say that, but I'm imagining he probably is thinking for a second, and he's like, man, I'm kind of young.
Yeah.
And I'm about to be king of the entire nation of Israel. And that is a big deal. And I don't have the experience. I don't have the wisdom. I don't have the knowledge. God, would you help me in that area? Would you give me the wisdom and discernment to lead these people well? And we see right afterwards that the Lord is incredibly pleased by that request.
Yeah.
Because he says, yeah, Solomon, I'll give you the wisdom, and I'm so pleased that you ask for wisdom that I'm going to tack on fame, or is it fame and riches? Yeah, riches and fame. In verse 13, riches and fame no other king in all the world will compare to you for the rest of your life.
Crazy.
That blows my mind. That blows my mind.
What? I don't even know how to actually picture that. Seriously, what God is saying there, okay, great. I love that you asked for wisdom. I'm going to give that to you. And since that was your first heart response, like you said, I'm going to give you riches and fame, and no other king in all the world will be compared to you for the rest of your life. You're going to be the top dog, not in an arrogant sense, not in a you stink, I'm better than you sense, but because your heart was towards me, and that you want to lead these people in a godly way, and in a way that honors me, I'm going to bless you for that.
Yeah.
In a huge, huge way.
Yeah.
And I think that's awesome. Like, that's
100%.
so cool.
And I think too, what it is Solomon in that moment had the wisdom, even though he asked for more wisdom, he
Yeah.
had the wisdom to think like, when someone says, hey, I'll give you whatever you want, my first thought is to like, what can I get that will immediately help me?
Yeah.
Like I said, I would take a vacation, pay off my house. But at the end of the day, I'm going to wake up tomorrow and have a new problem that I want solved, a new thing that I want to fix. Solomon knew that. He was like, man, I could ask for billions of dollars right now. I'm still going to wake up and have problems leading this nation. So I want the long-term help. I don't want the initial right now money and fame.
Easy fix. Yeah.
Instead, what I want is your consistent help, your consistent wisdom throughout my reign as king. I think that's kind of the difference here is his ability to be like, man, I want to do this well for my entire life, not just in this moment.
Not just the here and now, easy type of what I want type of feel. And kind of like we said at the beginning, I would like to think, like my prayer would be and my hope would be that I would have the wisdom to ask for the wisdom. But like when sometimes in circumstances of life, it's easy just to be like, okay, my problem is this. I want it fixed now. I want everything to be perfect now. And like you said, like Solomon was a young dude. Like he could have easily asked for that exact same thing.
Yeah.
But he had a heart towards God and towards wisdom. And he was thinking about, I love the Craig Groeschel quote talking about discipline, but I think it can apply here too. It's like, discipline is choosing what you want most over what you want now.
Yeah.
And so we can, like, we see Solomon did that. Like he chose wisdom, what he wanted most, leading this nation in a godly way, leading them to like God honoring things and what they did versus just quick fix, money, everything I want right now. He chose, the godly response. And
I love too that it speaks to as well, God always does abundantly more than we ever can like expect or sometimes even think to ask. Because I don't see where God says like, you get just one thing, like ask me for just one little thing and I'll grant one wish. He's like, hey, Solomon, what would you like? Ask and I will give it to you is what it says. What do you want? Ask and I will give it to you.
There's not like a lid. There's not a limit. Like,
but I think sometimes we limit ourselves and we're like, all right, God, here's the one thing I want. And Solomon, I think does that. He limits himself still like, but he has the wisdom to ask for wisdom. But here's what I'm getting at is that even still, Solomon limits himself to just asking for the one thing. And God says, yes, and I want to give you this and this and this. I'm going to give you the wisdom, but also I want to give you the money, the riches, the power. Like, and God just wants to do abundantly more in your life if you will trust him and follow him. And I love that it points to that. I also love that the end of this chapter gets crazy. Here's why we said, hey, this is a crazy story, okay? Solomon asks for the wisdom. God says, yes, I'm going to grant it to you and more. And Solomon's like, great. And then immediately he finds himself in a position to use this wisdom, but it's a crazy story. Let me set the scene. We walk in on a couple of prostitutes who have been living in the same home, and both of them have had children, okay? That's what happened. And here's where it gets crazy. Both of them go to sleep at night with their respective babies, their children. One of them rolls over on the baby, doesn't notice, out hard, out like cold.
On this baby.
Laying on the baby, and the baby dies.
We were talking earlier before this, we were like, maybe she was just thinking, I gotta switch to the cold side of the pillow. Let me roll over real quick.
Terrible. But it's what happens. It's in the text. And the prostitute rolls over on her child and the child dies. And she realizes the child is dead and looks over and sees, well, the other girl is still asleep.
And her baby's still alive.
I'm just going to swap the babies and make her think that her baby died last night and mine's still good. And then the other lady wakes up and realizes like, oh my gosh, my baby's dead. But it says that she looks closer at the babies in the light and realizes, wait, this is actually
not my kid.
Her kid that is dead. And she took my kid. And so they're both claiming that this one baby that is still alive is both of theirs. They're each like, that one's mine. And so they're arguing about it and they go before Solomon. They take this argument to Solomon. And it says that they're arguing back and forth for a while and Solomon's kind of hearing them out. They're going back and forth. And then Isaac, what's his response?
I'm just going to read verse 23.
Do it.
It says this. Then the king said, let's get the facts straight. Both of you claim the living child is yours and each says that the dead one belongs to the other. This is so funny. Solomon literally says, all right, bring me a sword. So a sword was brought to the king, verse 25. Then he said, cut the living child in two.
That's his plan.
And give half to one woman and half to the other.
That's his plan. He's like, hey, both of you guys want the last living baby. Let's just cut him in half, and each of you can take home, like, I don't know, something to remember him by. Like,
a little souvenir. I don't know. But, I love that. Verse 24. All right, bring me a sword.
But here's the thing.
Wow.
Initially reading it, it sounds harsh.
Yes.
But here's what it is. This is literally the wisdom of God that he has requested. Being seen.
Being played out.
Being played out.
Right away.
Being played out, because here's what happens is the mom that, like, the one who is actually the mother of this child, when she hears the plan to cut him in half, is like, no, don't do it. I love that child. Just let him live with the other lady. It's fine. I just don't want the child to die. Listen to the response of the other lady, the one who knows that, like, this isn't her child. The other woman said, this is what, verse 26, all right, he will be neither yours nor mine. Divide him between us. This lady's good with cutting the child in half.
She's a psychopath.
But here's the thing. Solomon had the wisdom to know, man, if I threaten to kill this kid, the real mom's going to have a heart of love for this child. And the one who is being wrong in this moment isn't going to care.
Yeah.
Because her kid's already dead.
Yeah.
She's not going to care. He has that wisdom. And then I love at the very end, he says, don't kill the child. Give it to the one who wants to spare. Give it to the mother who wants to spare the child. But then the last verse, verse 28, it says, when all Israel heard the king's decision, the people were in awe of the king, for they saw the wisdom God had given him for rendering justice. He asks for wisdom. It's immediately granted to him, and in such a powerful way that this one moment displays to the entire nation, our king has it together. Our king is going to lead us well. Our king is wise. Our king is for justice. I think that's incredible. I think that's incredible. But I think it also points out to us that, like, oftentimes we find ourselves in similar situations. Hopefully it's not about whose living child is whose and should we cut it in half. That's a little extreme. But I think oftentimes you and I run into situations where, man, we can fight about it. We can try to figure it out on our own. We can try, like, and it's not going to work. But if we can stop and we can take a beat and we can think like Solomon does and say, God, would you grant me wisdom? We see that God is more than willing to grant wisdom.
And he gave him an opportunity, like, right away. Like I think, like, also that can play out in our life too, where it's like, if we're asking God maybe for an opportunity to share, you know, your faith with a friend, or to invite someone to church, and it's like, all right, God, give me wisdom in that. He'll give you wisdom, but he'll give, like, you'll get an opportunity too. You'll get the chance to play that out in your life.
I love that.
And I kind of like how you said, like, there's certain situations in our life where we kind of think, all right, I'm gonna try to figure this out on our own. Like we can get in fights and we can get frustrated, and it never, like, works out. How it should or could with the wisdom that God could give us. And so I would encourage, you know, anyone listening, if you're in a tough situation or just a situation where things are uncertain, you don't know what to do. One, we've been in situations like that before. Like, you're not by yourself. You're not alone in that. And two, God's hand is reaching out and saying, hey, I'm right here. Ask. Like, and not just like an ask and like, ask and yes, I'm gonna help in this way too. I want to help you. I want to be there for you. I want to give you wisdom and do, like you said earlier. I love how you said it, abundantly more than we could ask or think. Not in a sense of like, oh, if I pray for a Ferrari, it's gonna just,
I'm gonna get a fleet of them.
Like, my whole driveway is gonna be decked out in them. But like, God is for you, and he wants what's best for you, even if you don't think it's best for yourself in the moment. God wants to help you in that, and he wants to give you more than abundantly than you can ask or think. And
I love that.
In a way that's good for you.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, guys, thanks for hanging out with us for stop number 19 through the Flyover plan.
Oh, yeah.
Third wild story in a row. So if you haven't heard the other ones we've gone through, go back and
Please
check those out.
watch those.
We also got a bunch more wild stories coming up
Got a
in
lot
the future.
left.
We got a lot left to go through.
We haven't even hit the New Testament yet.
We're still in the Old Testament.
Yeah. We got a lot left, and we want you to join us also. So we also don't want you to do these alone.
That's right.
So grab a group of friends. Maybe it's your Sunday group on Sunday mornings or just close friends.
Yeah.
And you guys want a Bible plan to go through together. This is perfect.
Yep.
Watch our discussion about it, read it, but also talk with your group about this and how you can apply it to your life.
Yeah.
And it will truly change how you see things, and it will change your life. And that's just our hope.
Yeah.
For like we
That's
don't
why we
just
do
do a podcast just to
Exactly.
be cool and get the cameras out and get the lights out and make funny stuff and cool stuff. Like, we want this to change your life and our life too as we go through this. And so we would just encourage you guys to do that also.
Yeah,
for sure.
That's awesome. Well, guys, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share it with all the friends that you're about to go through this podcast with.
Yep.
Make sure y'all get a chance to watch it and share it with everybody else.
Yep.
And we will see you next week.
See you guys.